We've talked a lot about ancient Egyptian mummies here before, but this one is really special. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel where we bring you the craziest and weirdest facts from human history. Today we're talking about the mummy of a young woman named Taia, who died at just 16 years old and has been perfectly preserved down to her still beating heart. You heard that right, her heart. So let's get into it. In the year 332 BC, Alexander the Great was busy conquering the known world. While his armies were fighting their way into Egypt, his general Ptolemy was arriving in the Egyptian city of Alexandria, which would go on to become one of the most important cities in the Mediterranean and a center of trade, science and art for centuries. It was the second largest city in the known world, coming in only behind Athens, and it was home to some of the most brilliant minds of the ancient world, like the mathematician Euclid and the astronomer Ptolemy, for whom the capital of Egypt is named. It was cosmopolitan and home to people from all over the known world. There were Greeks, Romans, Persians, and many others. It was a place where cultures met and mingled, and where ideas were exchanged. But it was also home to thousands of native Egyptians. During this time, there was a temple dedicated to the goddess Isis just outside the city walls. It was a place of pilgrimage for many Egyptians, and it was here that Taia came to visit. We don't know much about her life, but we do know that she lived in a village not far from the temple and that she came from a poor family. She was probably a peasant who worked the land for her survival. She may have had siblings or other family members, but we don't know their names or anything about them. What we do know is that when Taia arrived at the temple of Isis, she was very sick. She had a high fever and was delirious. Her family brought her to the temple in the hope that the goddess would heal her. But sadly, Taia died. When she was discovered, she was just 16 years old. She was wrapped in linen and buried in the sand. But her story doesn't end there. You see, the ancient Egyptians believed that the body should be preserved after death so that the soul could return to it. They developed a process of embalming, which involved removing the internal organs, except for the heart, which they believed was the seat of the soul, and then drying the body out with natron, a natural salt found in the Egyptian desert. After several months, the body would be completely dry and would not decay. The body would then be wrapped in linen and placed in a coffin. And this is what happened to Taia. But here's where things get interesting. In order to preserve the body, the embalmer had to remove the viscera from the body. The brain was removed through the nose, the intestines through the anus, and the stomach and liver through an incision in the abdomen. All of these organs were then placed in canopic jars, which were then buried with the body. Now, normally, these jars would be made of stone or wood, but in Taia's case, they were made of cheap clay. This is because, as I said, Taia was poor and could not afford expensive jars. But this turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as we'll see in a minute. The embalmers then took the dried body and began to wrap it in linen. They would have used a resin called pine to hold the linen in place. And then they would have used a sharp instrument to make incisions on the outside of the body, allowing the linen to conform to the shape of the body. Once the body was completely wrapped, it was placed in a coffin and buried. Now, fast forward 2,000 years. In the early 1900s, a British archaeologist named Howard Carter was excavating a tomb in the Valley of the Kings when he came across something strange. It was a collection of clay canopic jars hidden under a false floor in the tomb. Carter didn't think much of it at the time and set them aside. He would later come to regret that decision. A few years later, another archaeologist, Bernard Bruyère, was excavating a site near the Temple of Isis when he came across a burial shaft. Inside the shaft, he found a collection of coffins and mummies. One of the mummies was that of a young woman named Taia. But here's the thing, as he was examining the mummy, he noticed that it was different from other mummies he had seen. The linen was in perfect condition, and the paint on the coffin was still bright and vibrant. And when he unwrapped her face, he saw that she had beautiful long black hair, eyelashes, eyebrows, and lips. And she was just so well preserved that he thought she might actually be alive. He then remembered the collection of canopic jars that Carter had found in the Valley of the Kings and asked to examine them. When he opened them up, he found that the organs had been perfectly preserved by the cool, dry desert air, and one of the jars contained a heart, and when he felt it, it was still beating. Well, maybe not still, but you get the point. This was a medical marvel, and it made headlines around the world. The discovery of Taia and her perfectly preserved organs, including her still beating heart, captured the imagination of the world. People came from all over to see her, and she was put on display in museums. The Egyptian government even built a special museum just to house her mummy, but sadly, the museum was never finished. Today, Taia's mummy is on display at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. She is one of the most popular mummies in the museum, and people come from all over the world to see her. Some believe that her heart is still beating, and there are even rumors that she is haunted. Whatever the truth may be, Taia is a reminder of one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. The ancient Egyptians kept secrets for centuries, and we may never know all of their secrets. But thanks to the discovery of Taia, we have a rare glimpse into the past, and we can learn more about one of the most fascinating civilizations that ever existed. What do you think? Do you believe that Taia's heart is still beating? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe so that I can keep bringing you more crazy history. Thanks for watching.